Excellent. Hey there, all you gurus. Welcome back to another edition of Innate to Innate. And we've got a really special guest here. This is John Theobald, and he is a German new medicine practitioner, researcher, and he's one of the integral players that help heal herself through stage 4 ovarian cancer. And so he's somebody that I have a great deal amount of respect and appreciation for. And I'm so excited to introduce this fellow into the Facebook world, into our community. So without further ado, John, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Norm. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful for your having me as a guest.
Absolutely. That's great. So, I know a little bit about your background, and I imagine a lot of the people who are tuning in here tonight don't know that much about you or German New Medicine. So let's start with you so we can build just a bit of context for our people. Why don't you share with us a bit about your background and how you got involved with all this?
Well, a little thumbnail sketch, a Bachelor of Science degree from York University some years back. And from there, my first job was selling sort of medical scientific equipment in Calgary. So I got my degree in Toronto, moved to Calgary, started working, selling into the oil patch, the hospitals, anything that had a laboratory. And as I worked my way through about 9 or 10 years of that, I got to a very specialized point where at one point I was selling radioactive pharmaceuticals. And that's an interesting part of my life.
Right.
So after about 10 years, I had enough of that. I moved on. I spent about 20 years running my own business in the scuba diving industry. Mm. Radical change, a lot of fun. But during the course of that time, I was doing a tremendous amount of studying and my own personal research into alternative wellness modalities, whether it be vitamins or energy medicine, anything that was not mainstream. Because, of course, I'd had a fair bit of exposure to the inner workings of hospitals and so forth. And, good people doing good work, but I didn't really ever want to wind up in a hospital. Mm. And so far, touch wood, I haven't.
Okay.
But during that course of time, I stumbled across German New Medicine. It was just a fluke. I walked in on a lecture by Carolina Markelin, who was a student of Dr. Hammer's. And I started studying with her. This was in 2006. And her lecture just changed me. Mm. And I listening to her, something inside of me said, you got to learn this stuff. So fast forward another 5 years, she decides it's time for her to go back to Europe. She's from Austria originally. And that's the point where I said, we can't let this die. We got to carry this forward. And I started teaching, and here I am now. Doing my best to get the word out.
Absolutely. You're certainly a pioneer in this work. And, on that, I tip my hat off to you because, you're, this is cutting edge work. This really is. And it's exciting work, too. It's really exciting work. And so before we jump into the work, I want to just take a moment, and we're going to connect with all those who are on board. I'm seeing a lot of people have already popped online here, and this is exciting to see. Our conversation tonight is going around the world, and we've got a lot of people tuning in. And I want everybody who is tuning in tonight, to know that you're part of this conversation. Yes, this is between me and John, but know that you're also part of the field. And that as being all connected, we get to co-create here. So leave your comments in the comment section. Please do so. If you want to start off, just put your name and where you're from. That would be excellent. We want to get an idea of where everyone is from. And I'm seeing Karen's tuned in. We got Rose. Hi, Jennifer, way out in Manitoba. That's exciting. Kathy, good stuff. Kathy and John did some work this weekend. And Amy and Randy are tuned in. Lots of people are tuning in. That's great. And so, as we jump into it, I think most people right now are wanting to understand, what is this German New Medicine? And maybe you can give us the backstory about how it came to be, a little bit about Dr. Hammer's work, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Dr. Hammer was basically a normal doctor up until about 1979 in Germany, conventionally trained and working in a cancer clinic, managing a cancer clinic in Germany and practicing medicine as everybody else was. And we all know what that means. I don't need to tell you what that means. In 1979, his life changed forever when his son was accidentally shot and subsequently died. And the trauma of that experience was great, tremendously great for Dr. Hammer. Several months after everything settled down, he was diagnosed with cancer himself. And he accepted conventional treatment at that point. But when he started to think about it, in retrospect, he said to himself, was there a connection between the extreme emotional trauma that I experienced at my son's death and my cancer? And he started questioning his patients on their history of emotional upset and emotional trauma, comparing it with their medical records and their brain scans. Because at that point in time, the CT scan was relatively new technology. And so he put all of this into the mix and eventually came to the conclusion that there was a relationship between emotional trauma and cancer. And the rest is basically history. What he has developed is literally a roadmap between a specific cancer and a specific emotional trauma. And in between, he documents all of the intricate little details of a cancer program, which are just, when you look at the big picture, it's absolutely astounding how much information he provides that can give people some tremendous guidance in how they want to deal with their individual cancer diagnosis.
Wow, fascinating. So I was told that, in his heyday, he was so good at this that he'd be able to walk into the oncology ward and look at just the brain scan, and through the brain scan, be able to actually identify where the what the internal conflict was, what the emotional wound was, and then from there be able to diagnose what type of cancer he was looking at.
Even better than that, Norm.
That wasn't impressive enough. I'm like, my jaw's going, my goodness, it's incredible. Go ahead, what else?
As one goes through a cancer program, and I use the word program to give the idea, or I want you to get a grasp that there's a bigger picture here than just simply a random tumor. When we experience a shock that's significant enough to trigger a cancer program, for example, a tumor will start to grow to serve a purpose, and we'll come back to that later. All cancer has a purpose in our body. When that purpose has been served, the tumor is decomposed in the body. And there's several steps along the way there. In the brain, there's a parallel program, parallel patterns will manifest in the brain, which will show up on the brain scan. Both the cancer program of the body and in the brain finish up with a little bit of scar tissue. So you get a scarring on the organ, liver, for example, and you get a little bit of scar tissue in the brain at the appropriate control center associated with the organ. Okay. Now, so somebody who's had multiple cancers through their life will have a pattern of scar tissue in their brain that shows up on the brain scan. And Dr. Hammer was challenged publicly on at least one occasion and handed a bunch of random brain scans by another doctor and said, okay, Hammer, tell us what's going on here. He went through each individual brain scan and was able to give the patient's history of cancer based on the scar tissue that he found in the brain.
Oh my goodness. So be able to date it?
I won't go quite that far because I don't know for sure on that. I would doubt that. Okay. But he could actually look at the brain scan and say, this person has had liver cancer, or this person has had colon cancer, or this person has had heart conditions, because it was just brilliant. And he did this publicly. Yes. And there was another thought just flashed through my mind there, Norm, but I've lost it. Okay. maybe what I might at this point, though, interject something very important, that absolutely nothing that you and I say tonight is to be taken as medical advice.
Yeah, very good.
If you're in treatment, don't change anything based on our discussion tonight, but take what we say to your doctor and discuss it with him.
Yeah,
And
and most importantly, do your own research, right? We're
yes,
giving people a different perspective here, different point of view. But at the end of the day, you are the captain of your own ship, and we want to just give you a counter perspective here, one that you might not have been privy to receiving before. And from this, we hope that we spark some interest, some curiosity, and then from there you can go out and do your own research. But for sure, we want to waive all liability here. That at the end of the day, you guys really.
yeah.
You're in charge
Sure.
of your own health.
Yeah, one of my strongest message, my most important message to people is take personal responsibility for your health.
Yeah,
It's your body, your issue, your health. You are responsible, not somebody else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, and so after Dr. Hammer, there's been a number of other researchers who've continued on his work. Can you bring us up to date with just where, who's doing the research and what's going on in the German new medicine world?
Well, quite frankly, I don't know of anybody of any prominence that's actually on his direct path. There may very well be some, but they've seen how he's been treated. I believe that he has a number of friends and allies in the medical world that support him and believe in him, but they're not going to come forward and openly praise and publicly practice his work. What I will point to is if you look around in the online, do a bit of your own research, you will find many people, medical professionals and non-professionals, who cite research that supports what Dr. Hammer says and does, and one in particular. This is an interesting one. I believe it's a Central American government. Believe it's Nicaragua, has acknowledged the rightness of Dr. Hammer's work, and it's I don't know if they're actually teaching it in their medical school, but it's officially recognized in Nicaragua. Double check on the country, but it's mentioned on the GNM website, and I can't remember exactly what it is right now.
Okay.
But there's been tremendous verification. There's a full page on that website that cites 20 or 30 different other medical professionals who've tested and verified his work.
Okay. And so what I appreciate as a vitalistic chiropractor is, an inherent truth for me is that there's an organizing intelligence in the universe, and that organizing intelligence is also within me. And as I began to do the research with German New Medicine, I saw that cancer really is just another aspect of that intelligence, that here is the body's innate intelligence working towards our healing process. For me, that rang as true. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. Can you share with our listeners a little bit more about how cancer really is designed to help heal us?
I will, Norman. The simplest example that I can give in the context of our brief time together here tonight is one that would involve an animal in the wild. This is the simplest scenario that we can imagine. All animals suffer from cancer, as do humans. They suffer the same emotional traumas, and they get cancer, but their life is considerably less complex than ours. So if you look in the wild, if a predator doesn't chew his food properly and something gets stuck in his colon, say a wolf eats a rabbit, bit of rabbit gets stuck in the animal's colon, that wolf may die with a blocked colon. So the subconscious mind recognizes that there's a problem, triggers the growth of a tumor around that food blockage to facilitate the digestion and absorption of that food blockage.
Oh, interesting.
So once the cancer tumor has effectively digested that, more digestive juices. So eventually that blockage will dissolve. It'll be digested. It'll be absorbed and pass through the colon, and literally saving that animal's life. Okay, are you with me on that?
Totally, yeah, for sure. It's fascinating.
So when that problem has been resolved, the subconscious mind says, no more problem. It triggers the decomposition of that cancer tumor because it's no longer needed and is flushed out the system. And the animal will experience a bit of bloody diarrhea and then get on with life. That is the way it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Now, in the human condition, we refer to that food blockage in the wolf as an indigestible morsel conflict, and I think that's pretty straightforward to refer to it as such. In the human condition, if somebody serves you with a lawsuit, you knock on the door, here's a lawsuit, I want $100,000 from you. That would be a shock for most people.
Yep.
And that's something that the subconscious mind might interpret as an indigestible morsel, similar to the food blockage in the wolf's colon. And that would trigger the growth of a tumor in that person's colon. Subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a literal problem or a figurative problem. And the same process will occur. If and when the individual goes to court, wins, resolves the conflict, the tumor will decompose and that person will experience some diarrhea.
Wow.
That's as simple as it can get.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated because like how many people out there have undigested, aspects of their life that they're ruminating on.
Oh yeah. Well, let me answer that question, Norm.
Yeah.
A tremendous number of people. Yeah. And in the human condition, we hang on to our problems for an extended period of time. So if this particular cancer program runs for an extended period of time, it might stop and start, or it might just run continuously. It eventually wears out the tissue in the colon. And this leads to things like irritable bowel syndrome or chronic or colitis or Crohn's disease. All of these manifest problems in the intestinal tract are effectively the result of a cancer program that has not been allowed to do its job.
Right.
Because we hang on to our issues, and we're just horrible for that.
We wear them as badges on our sleeves.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And every single cancer program in the body can be explained in that context. And we don't have time to go through them all tonight, but that's a really good, simple, graphic example of what happens.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. Okay, I'm really getting my head wrapped around that. And so everybody who's tuning in here tonight, I imagine that we have a couple of people going, say, what? We'd love to hear your comments, your questions. Throw it in the section bar on the side. We're getting lots of great comments and feedback already. But we're here to answer your questions. And John is just an absolute encyclopedia of information here, and he's somebody that I've learned a tremendous amount from. And we had the opportunity of working with a client just on Monday, actually. And she's somebody who's in the cancering process, which is the way I like to frame it. It's the cancering process. It really is a process. Most people see it like an entity, like the boogeyman that's got them, right? And it's like, no, this is a process. And what I was fascinated with, John, as you were working with this lady, was she had a laundry list of a number of different concerns, health concerns, cancer issues, pulmonary embolism, lots of different things that had gone on in the past. And you were able to identify each one of them, just like a storybook. And she was going, check. Yep, that makes sense. It was almost like connecting the dots. It must just blow your mind as you're working with clients and how incredibly accurate and how well designed this whole thing is.
Yeah, it does, and it's amazing how it resonates with the individual because it fits so well.
It's true for them, and I certainly saw that with the client this weekend. She walked out and she just felt 1,000 pounds lighter, and it all kind of started making sense for her. And putting that in contrast with how many people visit their oncologist and leave feeling lighter and that things make sense for them.
Sadly, no.
No.
And our system weighs very, very heavily on people who are diagnosed with cancer.
One of the things I was fascinated to learn about with German New Medicine was death fright, which is in the medical world. Lung cancer is a high rate of quote unquote metastasis. Could you give us a German new medicine perspective on how those two link together and how you see, this manifesting for a lot of people?
Well, that's a bit of a mouthful there, but I'll see what I can do there. Typically, most people in our society are subconsciously programmed to look at cancer as a very, very negative situation and potentially leading to death. And our medical system quite often will look at somebody and say, you've been diagnosed with cancer and you're going to die. You got 6 months, you got 2 years, whatever. There is a profoundly negative diagnosis. Now, what Dr. Hammer found is that if you experience an emotional conflict that you perceive as a threat to your life, and we refer to this as a death fright, that may trigger a pulmonary lung cancer. And there's several different types of lung cancer based on the tissue involved. But in particular, a death fright will affect the alveoli, triggering a pulmonary lung cancer, the growth of multiple nodules in the lungs. And for the purpose of improving the lungs' capacity to process air, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, making your lungs more efficient. If you've been threatened with your life, you're subconsciously going to be put into a fight or flight mode. So by amping up the lungs, you're in a better position to either fight or run. That's really what it's all about.
All right, excellent.
Your voice is breaking up for me.
Okay. Well, so I was just telling my mom's story about how she had been diagnosed.
Coming back.
Okay, excellent. I was just telling my mom's story about how when she was diagnosed with cancer and how scary that was for our family. And how, for my dad, cancer really was his boogeyman. It was a scary thing that he was avoiding. And for him, it was definitely a death sentence. Both of his parents had died from cancer or as a result of the cancer process or the treatments of cancer or whatever it was. And so I was so grateful to have the wisdom that we had learned from you that really was able to shift my perspective and certainly my mom's perspective in her own process. It was phenomenally intense, number one. It was pretty profound to see what the human body is capable of, and her willingness to stick with the process and to really trust herself was amazing. It definitely took her to what we call as being the dark night of the soul. She had many, many dark moments where, her ego was really falling apart in a few different places. And, but she was able to walk through it, and much with the help of John. And, she had many medical doctors who felt that she was not going to make it. She had medical doctors betting against her life, actually. And when it came time, she didn't do chemo. She did everything naturally. And when it came time for her surgery, they opened her up and there was no more cancer inside. She had healed herself, completely natural. The surgeon was dumbfounded. He didn't know what to make of it. And at the end of it all, they actually reneged on the diagnosis, and the medical doctor said, well, you must not have had cancer. They did drain some 7 liters of ascites fluid from her body, so she was definitely in some sort of healing process. You with us now, John?
I am. I just caught the tail end of what you were describing about your mother and about how the cancer completely resolved itself and befuddled the surgeon.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is exactly what is supposed to happen. All cancers will ultimately go to completion and disappear after having served a function in the body. And I'm not sure how deep I should go into this because our connection is a little flaky at the moment. Guidance?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go a little bit.
Am I coming across verbally okay on the?
I'm hearing you. So let's go for it. I would love to hear a little bit more about that. And people are sticking on. So hey, everybody,
you've frozen a game.
Oh goodness. Well, we're going to thank you, everybody, for sticking on here tonight. That's great. And yeah, so tell us a little bit more about how things can get to completion and what that would look like for somebody.
Okay, may we go through the ovarian cancer program as your mother experienced?
Yes, please.
Okay. An emotional trauma such as the loss of a child will trigger an ovarian cancer. It'll trigger necrosis of the tissue in the ovary, preparing the ovary to grow new and more tissue, so that when during what we call the conflict active period, when the person has still not resolved the conflict, tissue will necrotize. And this is different than what we discussed in the colon earlier, where tissue will grow to serve a function. So in the ovary, tissue is lost, so that when the conflict is resolved, the ovary will form a cyst, okay, a fluid-filled cyst, in which the lost tissue will be replaced with new and more tissue. And over a period of several months, that development will progress, and the cyst will eventually dry and harden and leave the ovary with more tissue than before, producing more estrogen than before. The very specific purpose of all of this is to put the position to replace the loss. A woman producing more estrogen will look younger and be more vibrant and more attractive to a mate. Simple, very straightforward. There's a lot more to it than this. And if people want to go to the website to explore it in more detail, there's just a particular cancer program.
Yeah, that was exactly what happened with Mom when the surgeon went in. There was a tiny little, I mean, he called it like a dried up bit of a mushroom, and it shriveled up.
Exactly. That's what it's supposed to do. That was the end result of the cancer program.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Wasn't it? And so, in recognizing the difficulties that we're having today and a couple of glitches, I want to leave people with an opportunity to connect with you, John. I think this is the most important at this point. If they want to go deeper into this work, how do they do that? We heard about the website, but I want to get people in contact with you directly as well.
Yeah, they can contact me by email, and that is CCSS, Charlie, Sierra, at aedc.com, and that's Alpha Echo, British Columbia. And I'm doing a class on Vancouver Island in Policum at the end of next month, which might be of interest to people. So if anybody is really interested in that, send me an email and I'll send you the details. So without any further ado, I want to thank John for being a real pioneer in this work. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to offer this work and to enlighten people to another perspective, another paradigm of the cancer process. And I hope tonight was an opportunity for you to look a little bit deeper and shift your beliefs around what's happening through the cancer process. It's a profoundly amazing thing that can happen inside of us, that does happen inside of us. And all right, excellent. So, unfortunate about the technology glitches. Do check out his website or the website. Email him if you have more questions, and come out to our workshop or his workshop happening in Qualcomm Beach in the end of May. We'll have more information here online, and there is just a whole lifetime of research to look in the German medicine world and dig deep. Okay. Until next time, I'm Dr. Norm, and I am inviting you to attune to the wisdom within. Okay, be well, everybody. Take care.